Welcome back to Derry Public Radio. Reporting from the basement of the Derry Civic Center, this is CM Alexander with the news. After many years, the identity of the Mercedes killer has been revealed. Brady Hartsfield was apprehended late last night. A witness at the scene claims he was taken out by a woman in her 40s, wielding a sock against his head. I'm sure when he wakes up, he'll have one hell of a headache. I just hope for his sake, someone is willing to give this monster a hand. You are listening to Derry Public Radio. This is Derry Public Radio. Welcome back to Derry Public Radio, a bi-weekly Stephen King book club podcast. I'm one of your hosts, CM Alexander, alongside Joshua Kahn.
Hey, everybody.
Benjamin Graham.
What's up, Constant Raiders?
And today we are finishing Mr. Mercedes, and Josh is leading our discussion.
Yes, let's get straight to it. We open things up with the hit song Kisses on the Midway. I don't know why I want to hear this band. I don't like...
Over There sounds like a good band.
Around here?
Whatever.
Stephen King's attempt to write the lyrics to pop music. Hysterical.
I'm going to jump straight there for a second since CM, you listened to this on audiobook.
Over There?
God damn it. I'm going to skip around here and go to the audiobook when they're at the concert and you hear the singing. How is it in the audiobook? Is it great?
It's what you imagine. The guy doing the audiobook does such a great job with everything, but he can't make that a good song.
I'd love to hear somebody do, because we don't hear get much of the lyrics to the song, but I would really love if any of you musically inclined audience members want to put together a demo for this song. You send that to us and it'll be great.
I know we get a brief description of the frontman of this boy band, but I couldn't not picture in my head Boys for Now from Bob's Burgers.
That's perfect.
Just
yep.
Brady in the audience going, I love Boo Boo.
Oh my God. So we kick things off in this chapter. Hodges wakes up and decides, you know what? Today's the day I'm going to put my fist through the face of the Mercedes killer. He is damn determined. Today is the day it all ends.
He very suddenly is like, he's been playing around with, okay, when we get serious, we go to the cops. He drops that pretense so fast.
He's had enough. And he's going over the case files one last time. And he gets, first he gets a call from Pete. And Pete's saying, hey, I only let you leave the other day because we're buddies. I know you're full of shit. We're going to bring you back in here for some serious questions. Jerome calls and says, hey, if you need a ride anywhere, let me know. And he's like, why would I need a ride?
Jeez. How do you forget your car and girlfriend blew up the day before?
To be fair, he never forgot his girlfriend blew up. Just forgot it was in his car. And he goes down. The only reason I want to talk about him leaving interrogation is because this is the last scene we get of Charlotte Gibney, as she is also waiting to be questioned. And she is a giant bitch.
Super bitch.
Like, for her to be upset, sure. Understandable, obviously. But she asks if Janie had a will.
Mm-hmm.
That's the last question she asks before Hodges doesn't punch her face.
She acts the way that I imagined from the scorn that Pete and Bill gave Olivia. That's how she was.
Yeah. She is so far and above worse than any of the other people Bill has given shit.
Sissy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But whiny, not like whinier, not as, Sissy at least had some gumption.
Yeah, she had
She's
some power.
She's the Holy Ghost to the Trinity of Sissy, Wilma Jerzik, and
and Charlotte Gibney.
Gibney.
Wow.
So just for our listeners, we have Tommy Knocker's Needful Things and Mr. Mercedes.
That's a hell of a drawing of the three, Ben.
There you go. You did it.
No, thank you.
Speaking of the worst people in the world, Brady. We get to Brady in his hotel room musing about how none of this is his fault. And he's just a product of circumstance. What did you guys think of Brady's pity party for one?
Once again, I saw parallels to Bill, which at some point end in this when Bill does actually show what I feel like is an appropriate level of remorse. So thank you,
Yeah.
finally. It was interesting reading about him, but then as soon as he's like, oh, maybe I'll think about my mom and beat off, I was like, no.
So he can almost get your sympathy until he beats off to his mom. Is that?
I don't even like that sentence.
Now, this is a point where I assumed, CM, you were going to be very excited because now Jerome comes back and he is in the thick of it. He comes over and Hodges has the idea to have him call Vigilant Security and pretend to be a paralegal. What did you guys think of him finally bringing Jerome into this full on?
Once they transition from these are just the people that are around Bill by circumstance to fucking assemble the team, it kicks so much ass. They are all instantly so good at being private detectives. It's easy to forget that Jerome is what, 17?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, instantly they have such good instincts immediately.
Yeah.
And it rules.
I really liked this scene too, but I felt kind of bad because as much as I like Jerome, as soon as Holly's like, dude, I got this, she just kills it harder than either Bill or Jerome.
Yeah, she kind of makes Jerome redundant on the computer stuff.
Yes.
This is where we get the trail of breadcrumbs that lead us to Brady. We get to talk to Radney Peoples again.
Mhm.
Classic Radney hangs. We find out that Cyber Patrol is who is constantly around that neighborhood. Cursory internet search takes them to Discount Electronics, and it turns out Cyber Patrol only has 3 members, and they head that way. But before they leave, Hodges grabs 2 things. His old police ID that does not have retired on it, and a set of his dad's lockpicks. I have a lot of questions about Hodges' dad.
Yeah, that made me think too. I was like, is that standard issue for cops? Like,
What's easier to carry than a battering ram?
That is true.
Well, I think cops actually do have like Slim Jims
Yeah.
that they use because you can call the cops to help them unlock your door, your like car door or anything.
I didn't know you could do that.
Lockpicks?
Well, it doesn't say lockpicks right here. It just says like a leather case. Did you guys have any idea what it might be?
Oh, I thought the leather case was the Happy Slapper supplies.
No, he's got the happy slapper in his pocket.
I
No.
do like the idea that he has a fancy
Makes
leather
sense to me.
briefcase for his big sock, his big heavy sock
Yep.
that he keeps.
I thought it was his badge at
Mm.
first when he first pulled it out, and I was like, oh fuck, if he flashes the badge at someone, that's real serious crime.
And he does.
Now we get to Brady's plan finally being revealed. He has rigged a wheelchair to explode in the Mac, and just like Ben, you called it, you said it was
Reminiscent of
yeah.
Norman Daniels.
Yeah. Here's a question. He's laying in bed, not thinking about his mom. Instead, he's thinking about his brother. And he's holding this photo of Frankie holding Sammy the truck. What did you guys think when this moment happened? Like why he brought that with him? We find out later, but
I thought it was weirdly sentimental because of how he didn't seem to care about his brother and very easily pushed him down the stairs. He resented him so much because of his disabilities and the care he had to provide to him, and he was abusing him because he didn't know how to deal with it. And so I was like, well, I don't buy that you love your brother, which I guess people can be complex. But
Yeah.
fuck Brady.
Yeah, no, I thought it was like, I'm sure it was genuine what Brady passes for emotion. It felt very performative for himself. Does that make sense?
Like he's playing the part of a human.
yeah,
but
but
like
just for him.
to make himself feel so that he can say none of this is my fault.
That
He
makes total
carries
sense.
this thing around that says, this started it. None of this would have happened if Frankie hadn't choked. So,
Because that's the most important thing that happened in that whole scenario.
yeah.
He's so despicable, though. It's shocking that he pretends at all, that he needs like that excuse or to play human, because I'm surprised he's not just like, yeah, I want to fuck my mom and I want to kill everybody and this is all my fault and I'm proud of it.
Yeah, it made me so upset. I don't know if it's at this point or later when he looks at the picture and says, "I love you, Frankie. Do you love me?"
Yep.
And he makes him say he loves it. Fuck
Yeah,
you,
it is so deeply upsetting because you don't know how much of it is sincere and how much of it is just he's batshit insane.
because you don't get that. I think you get a conversation between him and Frankie, but it's more accusatory, if I remember right, while his mom's alive. He has no one else to quote unquote love. And so now his source of affection is from his dead brother, maybe. That's his only tie.
Yeah.
Mom's gone.
That's true. This is really off topic, but what do you guys think Brady's life would have been like were it not for the choking incident and everything that followed? Like, let's say for the sake of argument, Frankie's alive right now. What do you think?
Oh, dude's like a serial killer for sure.
Do you think he
And
would have found a way? So
I think he would have killed animals and wet the bed and wanted to be a cop real bad. And, classic serial killer fare. And I think that because right away, Frankie's in a coma and might die. And immediately his mom's like, it'd be better for us if he does die. And thank God it wasn't you. Look at my boobs. And so there's something wrong in this family from the start. And it would have only progressed, I think.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's a lot of people with sociopathic tendencies that don't feel emotions the same way, that don't kill people. Like, I think, I don't know that it is 100% sure that he would have been a serial killer, but he definitely would have been a piece of shit.
Well, are you kind of positing that killing his brother was sort of like the catalyst into being okay with that type of lifestyle? If he hadn't had that experience, he might have.
Definitely a big factor. I would think.
And he was very young when it happened.
Yeah.
So that
hit
his
I don't
brain.
know. I think there are a lot of people like that who we just haven't caught doing shit.
That's
yet.
entirely possible. So Jerome and Hodges show up to Discount Electronics, but guess who beat them there? Holly Gibney, because she's a badass.
And in the Mercedes. You go, Holly.
In the Mercedes.
I only liked this because it was her, and she was so, like, anybody else it would have been kind of gross, but she's like not even thinking about what happened to the car. She's just like, I have my driver's license. I am insured, and no one would mind.
It adds to how badass it is because of how badly it shakes up Jerome and Bill. They're like, the fuck? And she's like, what?
No one was using it. It was in the garage. It's fine.
I have to, I'll get to it later. I think I have a little bit of a crush on a fictional mentally ill person.
I'm right there with you, buddy.
I love Holly Gibney.
Holly's amazing.
The end of this book pushed me over from like, Holly is a great character to like, Holly should be the main character of every book.
And I love that her solving this was so much easier. Like, we know that Brady wiped out everything on Olivia's computer, but who looks at the junk mail folder? And Holly just was like, hey, I'll take a look.
Apparently
and then
not a detective or a guy who's really good with computers.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to say, if I was looking at it, somebody's email and it was just blank, I probably wouldn't think about it.
I like, too, that when they walk up, Bill sees this, like, teenager with gray hair smoking, and it's Holly.
They agree to stay outside while Hodges goes in alone, just in case anything happens. He goes inside. Both Tones and Freddy see him. He doesn't see recognition behind their eyes, so he's like, all right, now we know which one it is. And gets Brady's address.
Doesn't he kind of sense that it was Brady when they're looking at the pictures online?
He talks about that, like, in retrospect, though, and says when he looks at his picture blown up, it looks like the guy. He looks like a creep, and then he's chastising himself, saying, oh, everybody says that when they see like photos and stuff. They're like, oh yeah, I just knew he was a bad guy. But then he goes back on that. He's like, no, but I'm right.
Yeah, but I'm a cop. I got this.
Yeah, okay.
Hodges comes out. Jerome reveals that Brady is the Emperor of Ice Cream.
I was surprised we didn't have some of that, honestly.
Yeah, I was really waiting for an
It was
Emperor of
like
Ice Cream
a very
reference.
King thing that didn't
Yeah.
happen. Oh my God, do you guys think that Brady is the ghost vampire from Kingdom Hospital?
Oh my god. Yes. Yep. That's it. We solved it. This is where Hodges, he beats himself up for not making the connection that Mrs. Melbourne, back when he was canvassing the neighborhood, and she was mentioning suspicious things.
For dismissing another woman.
Yeah. What did you guys think about this moment?
This is where he won me over. I was like, oh, you finally see a pattern in yourself that anytime a woman opens her mouth, you're like, yeah, probably not.
Yeah, this is a really, really good resolution to that arc.
Yeah.
I love when you actually get to see a character grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like CM said, it's been the whole book of like, this dude's got some shitty reactions to things.
The thing that pushes it over the edge and makes it really sincere, this is jumping way ahead, so we're going to scale back again, but the end, that it's Holly, that Bill has to take that back seat. That just takes this moment of growth and realization, and it just makes it sincere and powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what I like about this moment is that you can easily look at it two different ways. One, as a resolution of this and him growing. But on the other hand, the piece of information that is the connection he ignored is so small. At the same time, you wouldn't blame him for having overlooked it all this time. So
Yeah,
he's
Mrs.
taking it more
Melbourne.
seriously. And
Yeah.
that's the gravity.
Like, yeah, the phrase that Mrs. Melbourne said, they walk among us. It's not like if he would have not dismissed her as a kook, that would have solved the case.
Right.
But just that he is like, oh, that poor woman, I shouldn't have dismissed her as a kook. Even though it wasn't, like, if it had been the case-solving moment, then you could, like, put that as, like, oh, he just realizes that he could have solved the case earlier. This was a inconsequential thing that he still realizes he should have handled better.
Bill decides they're going to take the Mercedes to Brady's. At first he says Holly can't come. She has to go home. But Holly maintains eye contact with him for 3 full seconds. And then he's like, nope, all right, she's coming.
Well,
Which
she
is
also-
fucking powerful.
Yeah.
The 3 seconds of from a character that has been like cringing away from people the entire book, just that moment of I'm going. You're like, oh, she's in charge now.
And isn't this where she threatens to call the cops? She's
Yeah.
like, if
Yeah.
you don't let me go with you, then I'll call the cops and tell them who to find.
Yup.
Right.
So suck it.
This will all be for nothing. Now we jump to completely different characters, Tootie and Muldoon. Not their names. Not a reference I got. Thank God King took a long time to explain it.
Yeah, a real cool Car 54, Where Are You reference. Like, neat.
It's what we've all been craving.
As a 60-year-old man myself, I appreciate it.
Not only do I love the whole Tootie and Muldoon thing, but at the end, like one of the very last lines in this section is one of the ATF agents being like, which one of you is Tootie and Muldoon? Which one's Muldoon?
Because
like everybody gets it.
Everyone. Are you kidding me? Everyone loves Car 54, Where Are You? I can't wait for the reboot next year.
Yeah. Ben, what was your favorite episode of Car 54? Where are you?
It's probably the episode where Tootie has to go to the prom and Mrs. Garrett says something inspirational. I think there was a character named Joe. This is facts of life. Shit. Never mind.
Perfect. But they pull up and they draw on a guy who drops a grenade launcher out of a box.
This chapter was like... First of all, when you're this close to the end of a book and suddenly you're with new characters, you're like, something bonkers is about to happen. But then a guy just drops a rocket launcher
What?
on the sidewalk.
And it just slides out of one end of the box.
This is why I would be a bad criminal, because I would have that luck that I would drop my rocket launcher in front of the cops.
And as it turns out that these 2 cops accidentally bust in on an ATF sting, and it's the biggest bust of a huge illegal weapon smuggling. There's so much ammo in this pawn shop that it would have taken out half the city.
Yeah.
And they're busted because they're sending people out the front door with rocket launchers.
Parked illegally.
Parked illegally. What a fucking useless crime organization.
No wonder ATF had them on lock.
Did this work for you guys, the setup of who owns the shop, how this keeps Bill and Jerome and Holly at the forefront of the Mr. Mercedes killer mystery and the cops out of it?
Yeah, for me, I think it worked. I liked it.
Yeah, I think it was a tidy way to explain why when they called the guy in charge of security that just they didn't call a bunch of cops in.
Yeah.
If the cops aren't available, it makes the ending a lot more suspenseful.
The reason I like it is because I like that here in a little bit we get the moment that Hodges is ready to throw in the towel.
That's what I was going to ask, though. I feel like he only thinks he would have thrown in the towel. If that hadn't happened, given his personality, I believe that there would have been something else or something would have popped up in his mind and he would have come up with an excuse to hold on to it.
The only reason I disagree is that I think the final thing in his head about why he calls is finally realizing we don't have the we could do this. We don't have the time. If we don't turn this over, thousands of people could die. Like, he is willing to put his ego aside because he knows that he has run out of time and now needs to take the consequences for everything he's done.
But the minute there's a bump in the road, he's focusing on Holly saying he's ours and Janie saying he's ours and all of that. And I still think that excuses him because he could have just done any number of things. He could have called in a bomb threat. He could have said, Pete, shut the fuck up. I know who the killer is. I've been talking to him. You're going to be really mad at me, but you need to listen. There's a lot of ways you can get somebody's attention if you actually want to.
That is true. So he wanted to. He just didn't want to bad enough.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's exactly
Yeah.
it. I think if this huge thing would have happened, he might have reluctantly given it up.
Yeah.
But I don't think that need was a need. So he got this excuse and just fucking ran with it.
So they, Hodges and the newly assembled team arrive at the Hartsfield house. Hodges picks the lock. They get in. He does a sweep. He finds Deborah's body.
You're skipping over.
Oh, God. You want to talk about the neighbor?
Oh, no, that's not what I was going to talk about. Yeah, there's this fucking neighbor, this Mr. Haney from Three's Company.
Yeah.
I'm keeping the theme rolling with television shows no one our age should know about. What I was going to talk about is when he goes around back and whips out the lock-picking kit and it has the very cool Law and Order stinger line. Jerome goes, "What are you doing?" And he turns to him and goes, "Breaking and entering." Like I can imagine it cutting to commercial.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was smart because Brady's in the car with Holly, or Brady. Jerome's in that'd be a much different book. Jerome's in the car with Holly, and he basically has him on his phone and says, "I'm going to check in every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So go do something if I don't respond." Yeah, he sweeps the house. He finds the body of Deborah, decides to call Jerome and Holly in once they find the computers. Man, once they get into the basement, they hit this brick wall. How did you guys feel about them being so close there with the computers and having no idea what to do about any of it?
This is where I'll say, at this point was the point where I started to think, holy shit, this book is going to end with the bad guy winning.
Yes.
Same, right?
Yes. I thought that especially because there's 3. I'm like, oh, he's going to get away with it. He's going to kill a bunch.
100%.
And I was trying to remember from The Outsider, because I know she references this case. Did she say there was an explosion?
Yeah, I just remembered her mentioning something really bad happening at the Mac Center. Mm-hmm. And I was 100% sure that Brady was going to succeed and fucking obliterate himself.
I also, if I had known that the voice activation wasn't specific, like like your phones, like it had to be your voice. It could just be a similar sounding voice, which I guess can be on the phones too, because my husband has unlocked mine. Don't ask. I thought that they weren't ever going to come back around to that.
Yeah, it's because that the whole book we've been getting him only using the command words, and like, how the fuck are they going to come up with these? So yeah, I love that dead end feeling.
Yeah, and the fact that they like come down the basement, it's literally spotless. Bill finds the cut open suicide vest and a single ball bearing and is like, oh, I know what he's going to do now, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
But they don't find anything else and they just leave. And I'm like, how we're cutting back and forth to Brady heading to the fucking concert. And I'm like, what can they do?
Well, they don't leave totally empty-handed. They say Holly not only takes Deborah's laptop, but also steals her purse.
You can only get so wet. Like,
Oh my God.
no, I mean, like, when you've broken and entered into a crime scene.
Yeah,
You can only get so wet, you might as well steal some shit.
that's true.
Did you think that phrase meant something else?
I thought you were okay. Earlier, you commented that you have a crush on Holly, and I wasn't sure why you would phrase it as her making you wet by stealing stuff. So Ben's all wet for Holly.
The wetter the better for Ben. Really,
God.
that's really.
Oh, people are going to be so confused when that's the title of this episode. The wetter, the better. The fuck does that mean? I don't want to know.
It's probably something CM said.
Oh, Jesus. What were we talking about?
What were we talking about?
So
Holly stole a purse.
Yeah, we already kind of talked about Hodges goes outside, calls Pete. Pete says this ATF thing happened. We're swamped. See you later.
You were right. It was these guys.
Yeah, it was the
these
mafia,
criminals, yeah.
those people who blew you up that ties this up in a bow. And he comes back inside, and Holly's just gotten off the phone with her mom after just like reading her mom the riot act, which was great.
See, I did love that, but the call from Pete, that was another piece of evidence that I was like, oh, he's gonna get away with it, because that completely ties up all loose ends for Bill. He could just walk away right now and no one would ever know that he was involved in any of this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a complete get out of jail free card. And I figured the rest of the series was just going to be him dealing with the guilt of failing.
Yeah. Holly does have a really great line here, though. When they get back downstairs and Holly's back on the we're doing this. And Bill says, when did you become so assertive, Holly? And she says, I guess when I saw pieces of my cousin burning in the street.
No argument to that.
Ben, scale of 1 to 10, how wet?
I hate this new bit.
Brady sends one last message saying, haha, I'm leaving town. You'll never catch me. And this, it doesn't work, but it works just enough.
I'm so angry at this part.
Yeah.
You too?
Yes.
It makes me so fucking mad. They're so dense.
Yeah. It's so
like,
almost purposefully, like it feels almost purposeful how wrong they're getting everything. Because they're like, oh, he's leaving town, so he's going to do something this weekend. Because he says, enjoy your weekend. I know I will. So Bill's like...
So it can't be a misdirect.
Yeah, Jerome, check everything that's... any big gatherings for this weekend. And they're like, oh, well, there's that big concert today. And he's like, no, it's Thursday. Check this weekend. We have to be very literal.
And Jerome's like, yeah, but my mom and sister are going to the thing tonight. Should I tell him? No!
No, it's Thursday!
It's Thursday!
Okay, I do love and then fucking hate when later Bill realizes, if this had been my daughter, would I have felt comfortable saying, yeah, it's okay, go to the concert? No. And he goes to tell Jerome to call his mom and sister and then gets distracted by something. Nothing would distract you by
Well,
that.
I don't know. What does distract him is the fact that Jerome has found a job fair that is this weekend, and it fits so perfect that he gets locked in.
But you would still hold on to that thread. You wouldn't risk people's lives on that.
Why?
Especially, he blew up Janie. Like, Bill knows that this guy can just strike whenever he wants, and Bill won't see it coming. He proved that to him.
And why put it off? You can investigate both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, go stake out the Mac, and then if he doesn't show up then go to the police and tell them about the job fair.
Right. Well, he does call the head of security at the Mac, so gives them the description of Brady, says he's a child molester, and that he'll probably be trying to get in there, so have all of your security keep an eye out for him. So he thinks he's doing enough.
Yeah.
Because he thinks he's really got the right lead.
And he thinks that Brady's going to stick out like a sore thumb, so just having his picture is going to be enough. I guess he doesn't know yet that people can disguise themselves.
And like what he thinks that the security team, because he even thinks like, I can't tell them if it's a bomb threat because then they're going to escalate the situation and he'll just blow himself up.
So let's rely on them to do anything if they're that terrible.
Exactly. Like,
Sorry, Josh is just watching us.
What's the difference between them going, you have a bomb, and like, you got to come with us, you're a child molester? Either way, he clicks the button immediately.
That's a really good point. I didn't think about that.
Like, once again, everything the book is giving us is leading to there's no way they're catching this.
Did you guys guess Deborah's password for a computer?
Honey Boy?
Yeah.
I blocked it out, so no. I was just trying so hard not to remember who she was and what she did.
Shortly after finishing this book, I was scrolling through, I think, Amazon Prime, looking for a movie to watch. And last year, Shia LaBeouf released a movie that's semi-autobiographical where he plays his own dad. It's called Honey Boy. And I'm like, well, never watching this.
Can't watch it.
Oh, that phrase, not that I ever used it or it's ever been used on me. Well, I'm a girl, but if I ever heard anybody call anyone else that, I would react like physically.
It's a gross term. As a term of endearment.
It could have been cute, but knowing what is attached to it.
Yeah.
Once they're inside the computer, they find a notepad, basically, that Deborah's been trying to figure out what these words that she keeps hearing Brady say are.
I love this because I also had dismissed Deborah as just being too much in her disease of alcoholism to be able to attend to anything else. And of course, that's not true. Like, people can still find, unfortunately, like, not very healthy, but ways to function and do things. When Holly's like, it doesn't matter. She knows there's something wrong with him and she's going to be keeping tabs on him and trying to figure out what he's up to. My mom does it to me. There's something wrong with me. Poor Holly, there's nothing wrong with you. And I just really liked this moment that she, educated them about that. And she was so right. I thought it was cool.
It's another case of the men dismissing a woman. Mm-hmm. In this case, it's a woman who gives her son handies, but come on, feminism.
Hodges,
Jesus, don't say feminism tied to that, Ben.
I don't know.
You do a lot of hand jobs. # feminism.
To your sons?
I didn't. You finished
Give your
that
son
sentence.
a handy. Feminism. That's what you said.
No, I take it all back.
From this point on, we pretty much jump. They're pretty short chapters between everything that's happening outside of the Mac and what is happening at the Mac. Hodges, Holly, and Jerome return to Brady's house. They have Jerome do the code words. But like as the countdown's happening, he starts to freak out, so he has to calm his voice down. And then they make fun of Brady's background and his something about the Enterprise is mentioned. I'm sure you blocked that out, Sam.
That really upset me deeply.
What was it? I forgot that part.
He basically, I think Hodges says something like he jerks himself off thinking about being on the Enterprise.
Oh,
or something,
yeah, that's
he's
right.
got all the
Who
monitors.
doesn't?
During all of this investigating, we're missing out on the reason that I went from Holly's a great character to Daw, look at her, is her moments with Jerome. The chemistry these two have is so perfect. I forget what he says. She's working on the computer and he makes some offhanded, not even a joke. She giggles and slaps at him and is like, "You're so silly." And I'm like, that's adorable.
Yeah.
I like when she gives him shit too. At some point, he gives her some stellar advice like, "Moves the power on," and she's like, "Go make yourself busy, Jerome."
Yeah. that's something so great about Holly. Like once she is comfortable with you, she's all in.
Yeah.
And that's great. There's a brief scene with Tanya and the girls showing up to the Mac, talking about how tonight's going to be the best night ever.
Once again, you cannot be a character that has not gotten a chapter about them from their point of view and just talk about how great it is to be having a good day with your daughters and not die horribly.
Those are the rules, people.
That was a dead giveaway. I was like, oh, these two are dead.
Especially when the mom was, because initially she didn't even want to take him. And who would be like, oh my God,
Yeah,
boy
right.
band, screaming girls, this is going to be a nightmare. And seeing their excitement just reminds her of exciting things she did as a kid. And she recognizes, oh, this is my daughter. Like, this is a first experience for her and I get to be a part of it. And yeah, you're like,
Oh no,
No.
they're dead.
Yeah.
They're goners.
They even see Brady and they're like, oh, that poor guy in the wheelchair. If he's still walking when we get a parking place, we should go push him up and be nice. Like,
And there are so many other things that, like, when Bill tells Jerome, oh, don't bother calling your parents, he says, like, I said a thing that would haunt me for the rest of my life.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, they're dead. They're dead.
100% dead.
Can we talk about Brady preparing?
Yeah.
Because he gets to the Mac and he parks behind a big loading van that they were using to unload like props and stuff. And he gets out and he's just at the edge of a parking lot. And he's like gets out and hauling a big ass wheelchair out of a car by himself. One person just looking over and being like, what is that guy doing? Would have spoiled everything.
But you also have to think behind that truck, it was probably parked all the way at the back end of the lot. Like,
Yeah.
It was a calculated risk.
The important part of this that I wanted to say, though, was after he gets situated and he sits in his chair and there are wires, he's wired all of the explosives together and he's hiding the wires and the thing too under the picture of his brother.
Yeah.
He is about to head into the Mac and he looks at himself in the reflection of the window and he says, he didn't recognize himself. The guy in the mirror looked sick.
Oh, I didn't even hang on to that.
Yeah, because he is disguised as like a cancer patient or no, I guess he implies to a guard that he's been
In a car accident.
accident. Just shaving your head isn't enough to make you look sick. So I can just imagine how like gaunt and just like bad he looks.
He plays off the picture of Frankie as though it was his son to get through security with
Fuck you,
people's
Brady.
pity. That when they let the people in wheelchairs come through first and all security is on them, like Brady freaking out was real intense.
Because he didn't really bother to hide anything very well because he thought it would be easy breezy.
It's even more tense because I think freaking out is the wrong word. It's he sees that there's way more security than he thought, and he thought there'd be all these kids everywhere. And now that he sees that there are way less people around and the security, he's like, oh, I'm going to get caught. And he just starts running calculations on how many people he can still kill in his head.
He still
Like-
he knows he'll beat his score.
Yeah, he's not freaking out. He's like, this ends the same way regardless. And that's even scarier.
Jumping back a little bit, though, one moment that I did really love is when he goes to sit in the chair and he's like, this might blow up the second my ass hits this seat.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty
When he
great.
plugs in thing two, he's like, if the batteries like discharge,
That's
then
it.
I'm going to blow up this big truck
Yeah.
I'm next to. Which would have been a really great ending.
Would have been really funny. Meanwhile, back at the Hartsfield residence, they're poring over the laptops. They discover some games, some files, some sexy photos of Deborah that she clearly posed for. Wasn't going to skip over that.
I wish
And
you would.
Clippings from the City Center massacre. And lastly, Brady's ticket to Round Here. Jerome immediately tries to call his mom and sister, but all of the circuits are busy. So they head off to the Mac. Jerome, who I believe spent his sophomore year driving getaway cars because or taking a stunt driving course.
I think it's the adrenaline, though.
Yeah.
This is funny, kind of. I was really irritated with, they were calling the mom and sister. No text, really. You'd be like texting, there's a bomb, get out of there, and calling.
Sure. On the chance that the text was able to get through, yeah.
Honestly, that shows how good the scene was, because I did not think of that. It's so tense, and like you said, it is kind of funny because like Jerome is just Tokyo drifting through the streets of the city, and Holly's just like in the passenger seat, just being like, yes, 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 just like fist bumping. It's awesome.
Yeah. They arrive to the Mac. The concert has already started, which means Brady is inside with the bomb.
Well, can we just talk real briefly? They're freaking out too because Bill's talking about the retired officer. Well, he's not retired. He switched jobs because he got a little too handsy with perks, whatever.
That's a thing that never comes into play.
And he's thinking about how he's going to use a heavy hand no matter what, and he can't let him know, because he's trying to get a hold of him. He can't let him know that it's a bomb because they're going to freak Brady out, and he's going to set it off.
I love that he keeps getting automated systems, and he's like, son of a bitch!
That was very relatable. He's like, I felt like it was the slowest one in the world, and then I thought that it was the same one over again.
And he's making all these calls. Meanwhile, he's having a heart attack.
Didn't expect
he
that.
started having a heart attack back in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second he's like, he starts rubbing his left shoulder. I guess it threw it out. I'm like, God damn it, Bill. No, you didn't. This is a book.
Yes,
gave it away for you?
I knew.
I overlooked it entirely the first time I read it.
He's been talking about his weight. He's an old guy. As soon as he's talking about that,
It's just, if a character in any media starts rubbing their chest for no reason, they're going to have a heart. It's that thing of like, if you see a character in a movie cough blood into a handkerchief, that person is dead.
Because what's the resolution of that? We just find out that Bill had a sore shoulder for a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hodges at this point has figured out that he must have used some sort of disguise. He pieces the wheelchair thing together because he knows that he built a bomb and that there's all these ball bearings, and that's the only way he could get all that in. They show up, they like charge the back of this theater, and security is trying to stop him, and to no avail, really.
Yeah, they don't really even try that hard. Like, the security at this place
sucks.
None of them are in uniform. Yeah. He's just like, hi, I'm a cop. Holly is like, I'm his partner. He's the trainee. Yeah. It's like, that doesn't even make sense. That's not how the cops work, I don't think.
That's how cops always introduce themselves,
too. Yeah. I haven't read any Joe Hill, so I didn't catch this, but I saw somebody posted that one of the guys who's working crew is wearing a band t-shirt, and it's a band from a Joe Hill book.
Oh, I missed that.
I haven't read, if it's probably from like Heart Shaped Box, which is about rock.
That would make sense. They find out the section that he would be sitting in, and they know that he clearly knows who Jerome is. He knows who Hodges is. That means it's all up to Holly Gibney to get close to him before he could do anything. And we get a peek into Holly's, quote, total freakouts. What did you guys think of getting that look into Holly's past?
She basically has autism and tics and gets made fun of at school, and her parents don't understand. When she's she does this, hugs herself. Is that her move?
she has
and grimaces
a tic where she wraps her arms around herself and makes faces. It's I don't know if she was. It's very
thinking of Tourette's.
Yes, it sounds like a Tourette's tic almost, but her classmates mock her relentlessly, give her a terrible nickname, and she flips out and has a nervous breakdown.
And then when she is in her, I think it's early 20s, and she's trying to just make it on her own, have a normal life, and she has a job, and her boss is horrible, and she flips out and I think does what any normal person would do in that situation. But then she has a breakdown again. And I think that's sort of the turning point in her life where she loses her autonomy, basically.
Yeah.
And becomes sort of a ward of her parents again.
Yeah. I think it's so important to get all that information right here because we see how a high pressure situation can flip that switch for her. And you wonder, is this going to be too much?
But in this instance, she has power. Like, it's not something being done to her. She is the hero.
Yeah, I didn't think that at all.
Yeah.
Like, is she going to be able to handle it? Because throughout all of this, Bill keeps mentioning Holly is weirdly the calmest of all.
Yeah.
And I get that. I have pretty bad anxiety disorder, and I'm really good at having panic attacks. But I have a job where sometimes there are medical emergencies and I have to deal with it. And in the few times that I have had to deal with something like that, weirdly, it's just something I'm able to just be calm. So I related with this so much that I was like, fuck yes, she is completely in control. This is weirdly when the world goes crazy is when she's like, oh, I get this. I can be cool with this.
Well, and do you think that's because those things like that are more of an external thing where it's not about like me and what's going on in my head or things I'm concerned about?
Yeah,
it's just me going into action.
Yeah, it's she's out of her head and just being like, I know what needs to be done because she's a very analytical person and just fucking does it.
Yeah.
Armed with the happy slapper. Hodges gave her the happy slapper.
Always braining pervs with that thing.
I swear to God.
You thought he was going to turn into worms?
No. I swear to God, if every book in this series does not end with Holly braining someone with a big sock, every single book, I want that to be the climax.
I can
Not
get
just
behind
the
that.
Hodges books. All books. Holly just comes in and
Just, I reread it. I don't remember. At the end, this woman we've never heard of shows up and beats a big spider to death with a sock. Weird.
It's so weird.
It's a weird book.
Now we jump back to spend our last few moments with Brady, who has recognized Barbara in the crowd, and he's very happy about this.
Why is he waiting to press the button?
It's part of his plan. He wants the biggest song. He's waiting for the carnival stuff to come in because that's the most popular song. He wants everyone to be singing along in this auditorium.
It's just
and then
so
do it.
stupid. And I hate carnival shit. I hate this scene.
It is so... I can't imagine what this show is,
A
right?
boy band? There's not... No, carnival and boy band do not go
the
together.
album is called Kisses on the Midway.
No.
That's the Midway.
This is not a thing.
They literally... they're like... What? They have sang a few songs, and then the main guy comes out and he's like, do you like carnival? And Calliope music starts playing. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
And
I
all
hate-
teenage girls are like, carnival!
It creeps me out.
Fair
It's
enough.
gross. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I hate it.
He sees the carnival set start coming out, and
Of course.
he starts staring at Barbara, and he's gonna wait to blast until she's looking at him because he wants to be the last thing she sees, which leads to one of objectively the most hilarious scenes I've ever read, where Barbara's like, oh, it's that nice wheelchair guy we saw earlier. Is he waving at me?
No,
he's giving me the finger.
It was so
No,
funny.
it's her mom. Because the girls are completely...
Oh, I thought it was Barbara
No,
too.
it is,
No,
it is
'cause-
Barbara.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, still.
He's just
Because she
flipping
looks
off
over
the
because
kid.
she wants to make sure he's having fun.
Oh, I read that all as his mom, Tanya. Anyway, it's irrelevant because Holly shows up and caves his fucking skull in front of an enormous crowd of people.
Oh.
That was a great way to deliver this from Barbara's perspective because she just is looking at this guy, showing her the middle finger, and stands smiling at her. Then she looks over and sees a woman jumping 2 steps at a time. And then is that Jerome who's behind her? Yeah. And then
Jerome with a gun.
Jerome with a gun. And I love that Holly calls him, like, gets there and she goes, Mike Sturdivant?
Yeah,
from her childhood.
Yes,
Yeah.
she imagines this Brady as this guy that bullied her as a kid. And she runs up and she's like, the right words divinely came to me. And she's like, hi, Mike. Bam!
She smacks him in the temple with the happy slapper, creating a teacup-sized divot in his skull. Then when you think it's over, she wallops him again and caves in a bigger part of his head. And he starts to convulse.
He marches like his mom marched when she was present.
They're literally in like the 5th row of a sold out concert on the aisle.
I'm surprised the music didn't just immediately grind to a halt.
No one reacts.
Because of the carnival shit. It is too
everybody's
distracting.
singing along. Well, the person next to Brady does react.
Yeah.
She is very concerned.
Yeah, there's this moment of like, what did you guys think of that? Because there's this woman in a wheelchair sitting next to him who's like almost trying to flirt with him. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like she, she's at a concert and sees a cute guy and doesn't know he gets handies from his mom and wants to flirt. And then, understandably, if you saw somebody just beating the shit out of somebody in a wheelchair, your natural instinct is to think that that person is in the wrong.
Yeah.
Also, with a sock.
Yeah.
From her perspective.
Yeah.
She just saw this dude get hit with a sock twice.
And his head caved in.
It's absolutely an insane scene.
And Jerome...
And I fucking love it.
Jerome, like, dives in and she's like, grab his arms! Because he's, like, flailing and they're worried he's going to hit the button. And the girl next to him is, like, reaching over, like, stop! And she, like, grabs her and she's like, he has a bomb. She, like, backs off. Holly is running this shit right now. And despite all of the flailing, she manages to defuse the bomb. And when it's over, I make this note. When it's over, Jerome hugs her with all of his might, and she only minds a little. Which is just peak Holly. Then we go back to Hodges, who is just listening and waiting for some sign that something has happened. But the world goes dark and Hodges goes down. He wakes up in the ICU with Pete next to him, and the first thing he thinks is he knows that Holly and Jerome stopped it. Pete tells him that Brady is in a deep coma with minimal brain function. Basically says, we have the other two, and they're not saying anything. They wanted to wait and see how things shake.
See what you said.
Yeah. You're pretty fucked on this. Like any good ex-partner.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely rightfully so. Which leads to this 1-page pre-epilogue that is insane.
Holly and Jerome, this 1 page is a decree from the mayor's office awarding Holly and Jerome the Medal of Service and free city services for 10 years.
Well, because they aren't retired cops.
Right.
They didn't break the law as much or in as egregious a way.
Well, and Bill is taking responsibility for everything.
Yeah.
And
It is still wild to me, the idea that the mayor is like setting precedents that vigilantism is cool. Which, I mean, to be fair, they saved a lot of people. Yeah, and it was all very cool. But it stretched the...
I don't know, though, because
it stretched my disbelief a little bit.
I think it ties kind of to the way the public treated Olivia, which you and I also had issue with. Mm-hmm. And we had a conversation about, we're talking about the Cecil Hotel, people needing to have that focal point. And so I could see sort of that being turned around and the community being behind these 3 people and the cops or the city not feeling comfortable, punishing them too severely because it wouldn't be very popular. I don't know.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
We jump to October where the 3 of them are all meeting up for a picnic. And we find out that all of the charges against Hodges have been dropped. Holly has made this massive picnic. And they're all going to hang out in this park. enjoy each other's company.
Just imagined it was all like cigarettes and Blu-rays.
This is where we find out that Hodges can never be a private detective because he'll never get bonded because of all the things that he just did. But he can be a skip tracer, though, because you don't need a private detective license to work for bail bondsmen. Holly offers to help because she's moved to the city. She actually moved into Janie's condo. And we find out that Janie left her $500,000 in a trust so that she can have her independence and live her own life.
Super nice considering Janie describes Holly as her weird cousin.
Yeah.
I mean, I have weird cousins. I still love them, but
Yeah.
it surprised me.
But I think Janie, it also shows that Janie knows
The
what Holly's
situation.
capable of.
Yeah.
And Janie was a genuinely kind person.
Yeah.
That I
I
totally
liked
bought
that she had that moment.
Lastly, November of 2011, 17 months after the incident at the MAC, Brady wakes up from his coma.
I fucking hate this.
He tells the nurse he has a headache and asks for his mom. And it took me until writing this note to make that connection that I missed the first time I read it.
That was the worst way to end up. Like that being put that and then put the wrap up with our characters. Don't leave me on that, Stephen King, you jerk.
This is the thing I really want you to take away from this book.
This is how I want you to feel.
Loved incest.
See, when the first time I read it, I read those two things completely separate.
You read it genuinely.
Yeah, I read it like how the
nurses hear it, not knowing about the
right. And because it was because, well, in my defense, when I read this the first time, I didn't talk about it as much as I have doing this podcast. I read it and pushed it to the back of my mind. Having Brady wake up at the end of this, how did that make you feel at the end, knowing that he spent 17 months in a coma and then comes to?
It felt like Stephen King shitting in my cereal.
Jesus.
I don't know. I went into this with as little information as possible, having read The Outsider.
Yeah.
But I remember the hints that The Outsider dropped. I know that it's not the end of Brady Hartsfield. And if I remember correctly, some weird shit happens in the last two books.
That's what I'm wondering, because I was reflecting on, this connection to The Outsider, and The Outsider does have that supernatural element. Mr. Mercedes is not supernatural at all. Nope. It's just a crime novel.
Which is what makes me so excited to read book 2 and 3, because I know that shit changes. Why? That's insane. I want to know how and why Stephen King is like, okay, I wrote a really good detective, like modern noir.
I think you're pronouncing gross wrong.
Now there's monsters or whatever.
I don't know though. I'm on board.
Oh, me too. Yeah. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
But I also didn't notice until reading it this time that Stephen King already planted a character for later in this book. At the very end, the nurse comes in to Dr. Bobineau, is who she runs and tells this to. Dr. Bobineau is featured in because he takes care of Brady. And it was just funny, like, if it were me, I would have forgotten that I gave a doctor a name that took care of him. So, like, after having been through all this, like, seeing that, oh, yeah, I know that name comes back. I know how to pronounce that name now. Which I didn't the first time I read it.
This definitely, the ending, it made me really excited to read Finders Keepers.
Nice.
And end of watch.
So, shall we rate this bad boy?
Yeah.
Ben, do you want to go first?
Might as well. You can only get so wet. Not using that right, I don't think. I fucking love this book. It's a fast read. The pacing is excellent. The characters are fantastic. I don't know that I have anything interesting to say other than it's really fucking good. 5 out of 5 blue chambray shirts.
Did you like the ending?
Yeah.
Wow. Is that a first Ben likes the ending in a book we've covered?
I have to have liked some ending, right?
I don't know.
Hold on, I gotta go through. I gotta go into my mind palace.
Besides short stories.
Oh God, that's wonderful.
I had to have liked something.
I like something. I'm sure of it. CM?
I also don't really have much to say about it because I enjoyed it so much. There's no like caveats like, oh, this, but I don't have to really defend it. I loved listening to it. The guy does such an amazing job. And I also am really excited to read it because I like doing both. And I can't wait to someday, if we ever get to cover them, do the next two in the trilogy. And I'm also going to give it 5 out of 5 blue chambray shirts.
Nice. This being my second read through, I was almost worried that I wouldn't like it as much as the first time, because the first time, just like you guys, it draws you in so much. The characters are all amazing, and the second time through, I even got more out of it because it was so great to revisit how all of this started, and I loved every second of it. Brady is such a terrible villain in the best ways you can have a terrible villain, and it's just, you never stop cheering for the action. It's so great. So I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 blue chambray shirts.
Well, that's it for this episode of Derry Public Radio. As always, thank you for listening. Join us next time when we cover the book Thinner through chapter 16, another Patreon selection by Kevin Sundstrom. For Joshua Kahn and Benjamin Graham, I'm CM Alexander, reminding you, to the young, tragedies that don't happen are only dreams. The memories, they're the reality. Hey everyone, CM Alexander here. Thank you for listening to Mr. Mercedes Part 3. We hope you enjoyed it. I have some deleted audio for you that didn't make the final cut, but first, as always, please find us on social media at Derry Public Radio or send us an email at derrypublicradio@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of the episode and any other thoughts you'd like to share. Please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple Podcast if you haven't had the chance to do that already. And check out our Patreon for merch and other perks.
I want to ask CM, you've been so yucked out by Brady's incest, but you didn't have any problem with the main character from The Long Walk. So why?
Because he wanted to fuck his mom.
Wait, did he actually, or is that a joke we made?
No, I'm pretty sure it was real.
Okay, the difference... You know, he won that right, first of all.
Okay,
Well played.
Not going to say anything funnier than that.
That's all for now, listeners. Goodbye.